All right. Well, I think we better do fairy tale tarot. So I hate to admit this, but I pulled the card, but I haven't looked up the fairy tale. So we're going to have to do that. It is the Nine of Cups. It looks like, I'm going to say a mermaid in the water with someone else, maybe two mermaids. I don't think so. Like a mermaid and a man. There's cups, of course. There are fish. There's a tree that has really winding roots. And there is a castle way off in the distance, because, of course, there is. It's a fairy tale. And there is almost a wisp of a woman playing a violin. You'll never be able to see all of that in the reflection with the reflections, but that's what the card looks like. I try to catch all the symbology on the card because there's always a ton of it, and a lot of times it has more to do with the story by the end of it than we realize. So, well, actually, a lot of times it kind of ties it all together. So let's find the Nine of Cups. Okay. We'll find the story. I apologize. I usually do this beforehand so I don't have to waste our time looking. But I didn't. Why? Because I was warming up my coffee, okay? Okay, here we go. All right, this is the story of the mermaid and the boy. The culture is Laplander. The keywords are reaching goals and attaining happiness. So remember that this is for the full moon, which means that you can apply this to the whole full moon cycle. So we're just asking the question, what do we need to know for the full moon? We're reading the story, and then I will interpret it for you myself, but I also welcome you guys to put your interpretations into the chat room as well. It takes a village here, you guys, especially with these fairy tales, because sometimes they are weird AF. Sometimes they're great too. So we'll see what we've got. Okay, long ago, there was a king who had to travel to a distant island. But as he battled large swells in the turbulent seas, his vessel crashed into a rock and seemed doomed for a watery grave. Through the sea sprays, the men thought they saw a mermaid. She skimmed the waves and whispered before the king, "The only way to be free is to promise your firstborn to me." The horrified king could not imagine relinquishing his future child to a sea creature, but his will began to falter as the ferocious waves rammed his beleaguered ship and tossed the men across the deck. At last the king had no choice but to agree. The mermaid nodded and slipped back into the ocean. As she did, the ship was freed. The king and his crew resumed their voyage, although their mission took many more months than anticipated. The king returned home to find that a son had been born in his absence. The king was so overjoyed that he forgot all about his promise to the mermaid. But as his son grew into a handsome youth, he remembered the fateful encounter. The king grew somber and finally confessed everything to his wife. They decided to hide their son, but the day came when they knew they couldn't keep him captive forever. When they told the prince the truth, he was unfazed and determined to go out into the world regardless of what awaited him. They tearfully hugged their son goodbye before he disappeared into a nearby forest. He walked all day, catching glimpses of unusual animals as they skittered about. He finally found a patch of moss and laid himself down to rest. But before long, the shadow of a beast awoke him. "Why are you here?" asked a lion. "I'm trying to escape the mermaid's curse," trembled the lad. "Give me food," roared the lion. "I'm ravenous." The lad retrieved a flask of wine and bread from his knapsack and offered it to the lion. After the lion ate, he laid himself down beside the lad. In the morning, the lion urged the lad to cut off the tip of his ear, saying, "When in danger, wish yourself a lion. You've been kind, and in return, please accept my gift." The lad walked all day. and finally found a patch of ferns to rest on. But when he opened his eyes, a great bear was glaring down at him. "Why are you here?" asked the bear. "I'm trying to escape the mermaid's curse," shook the lad. "Give me food. I'm ravenous," growled the bear. The lad gave him food, and the two rested in the ferns until dawn. Then again the beast departed, but not until he insisted on giving up a piece of his ear for the prince's good deed. Okay, that horrifies me. Like cutting off his ear and throwing it in your pocket, or what? That's really gross. Okay. Are these like Van Gogh bears and lions? I don't know. Okay. The lad finally came to the edge of a city and followed a path to the palace gates. He overheard people gossiping about the king's daughter's refusal to marry. Huh. Well, maybe. Maybe she doesn't want to get married. Maybe boys are dumb. Maybe nobody asked her. Okay. Undaunted, the lad took the bee hair. Wait a minute. Did we miss something? Well, apparently he has bee hair too. I don't see that that actually happened in the story. Oh, it does. Good Lord. Okay. I suck at this. Sorry. Okay. Then he encountered a bee, and the same scenario played out. Take a hair from my wing. When in danger, wish yourself a bee. Maybe I didn't. I think I read it. Okay. Godfrey. All right. Undaunted. The lad took the bee hair and wished himself a bee. He buzzed up to the royal balustrade and made his way into the princess's chamber. He then returned into his original form. That's not creepy. Sure, just fly into the princess's chamber without asking. Who knows what she was doing in there? Okay. At first, the surprised princess rejected the intruder. Well, duh, he was an intruder. But after a while, she grew quite fond of the lad and even wanted to marry him. As you do. But I must warn you, said the princess. In 3 days, father will go to war, accompanied by an entourage of warriors and knights. He will forget his sword and offer my hand in marriage to the one who brings it to him. The princess's prediction was realized. The sword was forgotten. With the help of the princess, the prince went to take it to his majesty, transforming into a bear and then a lion along the way before returning to his original form. But he became thirsty and paused at a stream. Carelessly, he put the sword on some rocks and went to take a drink. Before he knew it, the mermaid grabbed his arm and pulled him from the banks into the watery realm. Well, who could have predicted this? Okay. One of the knights saw the sword there and took it to the king. But instead of telling the truth, he claimed it as his own good deed. Well, I mean, he did find it abandoned. The king offered his daughter, and the wedding plans were arranged. Meanwhile, the true hero was lying on a bed of seaweed with the watchful eye of the mermaid on him. Then the mermaid heard the sound of a violin playing near the surface. Quick, take my shoulders and swim with me towards the music, she instructed. They swam from the depths. As they drew closer and closer to the surface, the lad recognized the princess. Please take me closer to the surface, said the prince to the mermaid. I cannot quite hear it. The mermaid brought him to the shoreline, where he promptly wished himself a bee and flew into the princess's pocket. The mermaid looked all over for the lad, but at last dove back into her underwater home. The bee changed back into a prince and embraced the princess. The princess told her father that it was the prince who had tried to bring him the sword, yet a dishonorable knight had deceived him into believing otherwise. With the prince redeemed, he married the princess, and everyone lived happily ever after. Except for that he could never go near water again. I mean, what? Getting married broke the curse? The mermaid gave up? I don't get it. Okay. The symbols and meaning on the card. The mermaid swims between the unconscious below and the consciousness on the surface. The fishes represent thoughts. The bear, lion, and bee are all representative of animal energies. Yeah. They stand for the libido and impulses necessary to push onward. The roots of the tree contain spirals of continuation and connect the underworld with the upper world. The woman was playing the violin, representing creative inspiration. The moon has the strength to affect the movement of the waters and unconscious influences. The castle symbolizes happiness and achievement. The faces in the rock are spirits serving as guides. The golden cups are arranged in order and rotate with the movement of the stars, the water, and the emotional bliss that is about to be experienced. Okay. I definitely didn't get all of that from that card, but it's nice to hear their interpretation. All right, here's what the author says. We have shed the last vestiges of emotional turmoil. And I really hope this is true for this full moon, you guys, because it has been a ride, and are now on the path towards reaching new objectives. We enjoy the ride as we feed the exhilaration of our goals, being fed into our emotional well being. We feel a keen sense of personal accomplishment and bask in the multitudinous blessings that are finally making themselves visible. Multitudinous. Okay, so there you go. That's the story, and that's what the author says. So where do we go from here? Okay, for me, looking at this, I think for this full moon cycle, we should be very willing to use our own tools, whether that is our gifts, our talents, prayer, energy work, pendulums, whatever. I think that using our tools, like the bee's wing, right? Or the hair from the bee's wing, or the ear from the bear or the lion, that we don't forget and abandon our spirituality, but we use the tools that we have in order to get from point A to point B. I think that could also very well have to do with people. For example, one of the schools is recruiting my daughter. She has a friend who played on that team. I said, you need to text her. Let her know that they are recruiting and ask her to put in a good word for you. My daughter, oh, Mom, no, that's awful. That's so embarrassing. No, it's not. It's how we get things done. She hasn't done it. I'm going to have a killer about it. But this is using your tools, right? Using the tools in your toolbox to get from point A to point B. I think that's going to be important the next 2 weeks. Using, in a very gracious way, who you know, what you know, in order to accomplish your goals. There's nothing wrong with that. These are relationships that you have earned, the respect that you have created. Or if, say, you have a family member that's a mechanic that you want to reach out to and ask them why your car is making that noise. Or you have a friend that's, I don't know, that has a gift or whatever. Use your contacts if you must. Or maybe you're applying for a job and you know someone who works there and you want to ask for their good word. Whatever. Use your gifts, use your tools, use what's at your disposal to help you. Don't forget about your spirituality. Don't forget about magic and your beliefs as well. I think that's going to be really important moving forward. I think the next this full moon cycle, we're going to get our mojo back. I feel like they use the word libido. I'm going to use the word mojo. I feel like we're going to get back some of the motivation that we've lost over this new moon cycle, and that we're going to just in general be feeling quite a bit more energetic and more creative and better. So I'm liking this full moon cycle. It feels to me like with some creativity, we can really get to where we want to go. So that's what I think about it. That's my take on the full moon tarot, but I would love to hear anybody else's take as well. And there you go. That is full moon fairy tale tarot